Good afternoon and welcome to today's proceedings of the Senate. This being the third day of October 2018. This afternoon, the Petroleum Bill, National Assembly Bills number 48 of 2017, will be debated. The bill is active in the House. The last time it was debated was 26th September 2018. Thereafter, there will be division, followed by the resumption of debate on the impeachment procedure bill, where the mover will be called upon to reply. Thereafter, the senators will be going to the Committee of the Whole House to consider some amendments to the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2017, the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2018, the Food Security Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2017, the Office of the County Printer Bill, Senate Bills number 7 of 2018, the Disaster Risk Management Bill, Senate Bills number 8 of 2018, and thereafter, the Care and Protection of Older Members of the Society Bill, Senate Bills number 17 of 2018, will be debated for the second reading. The principal object of this bill is to give effect to Article 57 of the Constitution on the right of older persons to fully participate in the affairs of society, pursue their personal development, live in dignity and respect, and be free from abuse, and receive reasonable care and assistance from family and the state. This particular bill is courtesy of the Senator for Kericho County, Senator Arion Cheriot. The bill provides a framework through which the rights articulated under Article 57 of the Constitution can be realized. It recognizes the fact that for a long time, older members of society, particularly those who are unable to care for themselves, have often been neglected and are unable to carry on living decent lives. The need for the state to take measures for the care of older members of society is compounded by the fact that the cohesion that existed amongst families and communities in the past is gradually eroding, and the older members of society have no one to turn to or look after them when they are unable to look after themselves. The senator argues that it is therefore imperative to set up a system which can provide for the support of these older members of society to enable them live decent lives, a right which is inherent and which is expressed under Article 57 of the Constitution. The bill therefore provides the necessary legal framework for the establishment of a system for the care and maintenance of older members of society. That is a bill which will be debated for the second reading, and it is courtesy of the Senator for Kericho County, Senator Arion Cheriot. And the bill is a bill concerning county government in terms of Article 110, subsection 1A of the Constitution. Also in the order of business this afternoon is the petition to county assemblies procedure bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2018. This particular bill is courtesy of Senator Judith Barreno. The main objective of this bill is to provide for the procedure for petitioning a county assembly. Article 37 of the Constitution provides that every person has a right to present petitions to public authorities. Section 15 of the County Government Act specifically provides for the right to petition a county assembly. On the procedure for the exercise of that right, Section 15, subsection 2 of the County Government Act requires each county assembly to provide for the procedure to be applied in the respective county assembly. This may result in the enactment of different procedures for petitioning county assemblies across the 47 counties. This bill, therefore, seeks to provide a uniform and harmonized procedure that would apply in all county assemblies. The procedure is similar to that applicable to the National Parliament as set out in the petition to Parliament Procedure Act of number 22 of 2012. The bill does not delegate legislative powers, nor does it limit fundamental rights and freedoms. The Senator Judith Moreno argues that one of the functions of the County Assembly in terms of Section 37 of the Constitution and Section 15 of the County Governments Act is to consider petitions that are lodged with the respective county assemblies. Petitions cover a wide range of the matters that fall within the functions and powers of the county government. This bill, therefore, seeks to provide a uniform and harmonized procedure by which county assemblies are to receive, consider, and dispose of petitions lodged with the county assemblies. If you're just joining us, these are live proceedings from the Senate. It is a broadcast brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. The broadcast is available on YouTube. You can stream it live, and you can also watch it on KBC Channel 1 as well as Senate TV. Mr. Speaker. Now, therefore, I will hand you over so that you can follow these proceedings live. A lot of business lined up this afternoon. On your screen, Speaker Kenneth Makelo-Lusa.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings us, your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come and our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Yes.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, order. Before we proceed to order number 8 in today's order paper, I wish to make the following communication. As you may be aware, the Petroleum Bill, National Assembly Bill number 48 of 2017, was introduced in the Senate on 10th July 2018 by way of first reading, having been referred from the National Assembly for concurrence by the Senate. The bill was debated at second reading stage on 25th and 26th September 2018 and is scheduled for division at order number 8 in today's order paper. In the course of debate, the bill elicited a lot of interest from members, with senators highlighting several areas in the bill that would require amendments in order to align it to, among others, the Constitution and the devolved structure of government. In this regard, a breakfast meeting has been organized for all honorable senators for deliberations on the bill, with a view to arriving at a consensus on the amendments to be made to the bill at committee stage, so that this may be canvassed before the bill is scheduled for committee of the whole and third reading. The meeting is scheduled to be held on Tuesday next week, 9th October 2018, at a venue to be communicated. I invite and urge all honorable senators to actively participate in this important meeting. I thank you.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Okay, order members, honorable senators, we are reorganizing the order paper for the convenience of the House. So we'll come back to these other orders, but in the meantime, we go to order number 18.
Order number 18, motion, development and implementation of a national disaster risk financing strategy.
Senator George Haneri. Senator Zani, I can see. What is your intervention? Or is it a mistake? Okay. Okay. Senator Haneri George.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that whereas Kenyan disaster profile is dominated by droughts, fire, floods, terrorism, diseases, and epidemics that disrupt livelihoods, destroy infrastructure, divert planned use of resources, interrupt economic activities, and retard development. Further, whereas the government, through its various agencies, is ultimately responsible for disaster reduction, preparedness, and management, cognizant of the fact that government agencies involved in disaster management are usually overwhelmed when called upon to provide response services during disaster and emergencies, aware that the Kenya Red Cross Society Act, Cap 256 of the laws of Kenya, establishes the Kenya Red Cross Society as a sole national Red Cross society in Kenya as a voluntary aid society, recognizing the efforts of the Kenya Red Cross Society to provide first-line disaster response services in incidences of disaster and other emergencies across the country, observing the huge financial resources required to finance disaster reduction and preparedness and other emergency services, noting that one of the sources of the Kenya Red Cross Society in financing its operations is through accepting unrestricted contributions and assistance in any form from individuals, public authorities, and private bodies, appreciating the efforts made by the prudent management of funds by the Kenya Red Cross Society, further aware that emergency fund is substantial proportionate vote head in both the national and county government budgets, concerned that the Kenya Red Cross Society has not been allocated a budget from the national and county governments despite the huge contribution in disaster and emergency response across the country. Now, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Senate urges the national and county governments to explore collaborative mechanisms for the Kenya Red Cross Society to support and implement a paradigm shift from post-disaster response to risk reduction by developing and implementing a national disaster risk financing strategy across all sectors and incorporate it into the national and county development planning and financing processes. Mr. Speaker, sir, this motion is coming when the House is still processing the disaster management bill. And Mr. Speaker, when I gave notice of this motion, there were some people in some quarters who asked me to withdraw the motion because they thought it was maybe in conflict or a duplication with the disaster risk management bill that this House is looking into. But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, this bill is actually, if anything, supplementing, this motion supplementing the bill on disaster risk and management, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of order, Senator Wetangula?
Mr. Speaker, we want to listen to what the distinguished Senator for Vihiga is saying, but the majority leader is holding a kamkunji right in front of you, and we are unable to hear what is going on.
Honorable Leader of Majority, consult in low tones with seemingly members are not following a very important motion that is being moved. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I just said that it's not a duplication, but it's going to supplement the provisions that are in the disaster risk management bill, Mr. Speaker, and therefore the motion is very timely, and I thought I should just proceed and move it and leave it to this House to decide. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Kenya Red Cross Society, in its current form, was established in 1965 through the Kenya Red Cross Societies Act, Cap 256 of 1965. And Mr. Speaker, sir, currently, His Excellency the President is the patron of the society. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Kenya Red Cross Society is premised on the tenets of humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, and universality. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to believe that we all agree that they have lived up to these tenets that they believe in. Kenya Red Cross Society has earned the trust and confidence of the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, the KRC has been ever present, first responders to any emergency across the country. The society has responded to emergencies such as fires, accidents, collapsed buildings, mudslides, floods, refugee settlement, drought, drug addiction, Zika infestation, HIV/AIDS, and so many others. You can name them, Mr. Speaker. In the recent past, we all remember the 2007-2008 post-election violence, where Kenya Red Cross Society played a very vital role in providing temporary shelters for the victims of these clashes. Mr. Speaker, sir, you all remember the Sunday, 1st February 2009, when a tanker collapsed, rolled at Sachangwan and killed so many of our people. It was a terrible tragedy. And we all remember who were the first people there to try and save lives and to help those the other casualties. On Saturday, 21st September 2013, during the Westgate Mall terrorist attack, Mr. Speaker, sir, We all remember the role that Kenya Red Cross Society played. The Mpekotoni attacks between 15th and 17th June 2014. The Thursday, 2nd April 2015 Garissa University attack, where, Mr. Speaker, I lost a nephew. Mr. Speaker, we all know what role Kenya Red Cross Society played. And even in the current clashes that are happening in Narok, they are there, Mr. Speaker, trying to provide shelter for those who have lost their homes. Therefore, the importance of Kenya Red Cross Society, Mr. Speaker, sir, cannot be overemphasized. We all know the very, very important role that they are playing to intervene in all the calamities and tragedies that befell us, and thus the gist of this motion. To do this, Mr. Speaker, to do all these interventions, the society incurs a huge expenditure budget, and they depend entirely on well wishes. Mr. Speaker, this is an organization that is playing a role that ideally supposed to be played by the government. And yet, Mr. Speaker, there's very little appreciation, very little support that the government is giving to the organization, to the society. Mr. Speaker, sir, you look at their budget. I was privileged to look at the budget of the Kenya Red Cross Society in the last financial year. The year ending, their years end in December, not in June like us, like the government year. The year ending December 2017. And I saw that their budget was close to 7.2 billion Kenyan shillings. 7.2 billion Kenyan shillings, Mr. Speaker. And all this, you can imagine, just coming from well wishers and the government playing very minimal or no role at all in financing of this budget.
What is your point of order, Leader of Majority?
Mr. Speaker, I do not want to interrupt Senator George, who is moving a very important motion. But as earlier agreed, we have the division coming up. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, can we interrupt the business of the House temporarily to do the division? Mr. Speaker, we can come back to that very important motion. Senator George, Mr. Speaker, is noting in agreement, and I think we can move together in that direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of Majority, understanding order number 105, it must be first proposed.
Mr. Speaker, I move a motion that, Mr. Speaker,
approach the chair, Leader of Majority.
George, you want to talk after all? I can move in 5 minutes. And then finish. Yeah. Can I finish? He says in 5. Yeah, second. Who is your second? Who is your second?
Yeah, I've already done. I've already done.
Okay, Senator Haneri, proceed, but in the...
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir, I realize the importance of the vote that we are supposed to take. I will just move in the next 5 minutes. I have my seconder, Mr. Speaker, Senator Abshiro. I couldn't get a better seconder. Senator Abshiro was the Deputy Director of Kenya Red Cross Society, deputizing Mr. Abbas. And therefore, I think she's very versed with society and the right person to second. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'll go straight to the gist of this motion, of course, is trying to find a way where the county governments and the national government can work in collaboration to see to it that the activities of this society are seamlessly funded, so that government has a role in the activities that the Kenya Red Cross Society undertakes. We cannot leave this very, very important exercise that they play entirely to depend on donor funding, Mr. Speaker. We cannot. That's a big risk we'll be taking. And therefore, that is why we must come up with if this motion is passed, I intend, Mr. Speaker, sir, to come up with a bill which we will be working on with Senator Bushiro to see that we put this into proper legislation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, indeed, financing for this organization, for the society, has been a challenge with several appeals. In other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, the government provides direct financial support to the society because of the pivotal role it plays alleviating human suffering and offering fast response to victims of various disasters. Recently, Mr. Speaker, I saw the President had made a donation from the government to the society of 1 billion. I want to believe this was to go towards, was it 1 billion? 1 billion towards the victims of the clashes in Mao, which was a good gesture, Mr. Speaker. But we cannot leave this to the whims of the leaders that are in office at that particular time. Mr. Speaker, we must provide a proper legal framework for the government at both levels, county level and national level, to work with the society in terms of financing their activities, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, you've seen the prayers in my motion that the Senate urges the national and county governments to explore collaborative mechanisms for the Kenya Red Cross Society to support and implement a paradigm shift from post-disaster response, where we rush to give them support when there is a disaster response, to risk reduction by developing and implementing a national disaster risk financing strategy across all sectors and incorporate it into the national and county development planning and financing processes, because we all know that for government to fund any particular activity, it must be provided for in the budgets, and therefore this is what we are requesting for. As I said, Mr. Speaker, sir, we intend to bring a bill which will have all the details. All I'm seeking from the House today is for the House to support the passage of this motion, so that once it is passed, I will get an opportunity to continue working on the bill that I've been working on, so that we bring this into a reality. Mr. Speaker, I will call upon Senator Bushiro to second this motion, and hope that the House gives us a nod so that we can go ahead, proceed, and develop a bill. Thank you.
Senator Bushiro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to second Senator Haniri. And in fact, please allow me to thank him very much for bringing this motion. As has been said here, this is a very important motion. Mr. Speaker, yes, I was the immediate former Deputy Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross Society. I was very privileged to serve Kenyans in the humanitarian space through a most wonderful organization like the Kenya Red Cross Society. Mr. Speaker, there are around 190 Red Cross societies around the world, but the Kenya Red Cross Society is one of the best Red Cross societies in the entire globe. And Kenya should be very proud of some of its institutions, because the Kenya Red Cross Society, as you have been told by Senator Haniri, is one of the major organizations that's doing a great amount of work, not just in disaster risk, but also in many developmental work as well. And he has listed that. I'm not going to belabor it. I've been told I have a very short time. But Mr. Speaker, of that 7 billion budget that the Kenya Red Cross Society for a long time now has been serving this country with, there's been a reduction of more than half, simply because international humanitarian response and international humanitarian donations have reduced so very much in the face of new disasters around the world, in Yemen, in Syria, and other places. And so, again, Kenya Red Cross Society has had to deal with a sustainability issue. Mr. Speaker, this country needs to think, and I've said this before, a country is as strong or as weak as its institutions, and we are very privileged to have a Red Cross Society, the Kenyan society, a national society that is embedded in the community, that is doing so very well, but is facing sustainability issues. Kenya Red Cross Society not being sustainable means that the communities that the Kenya Red Cross Society serves, Kenya Red Cross Society exists in every county. There are 67 branches, and we have up to the household level where you have community health volunteers doing a lot of work on the ground. If that organization is not sustainable, Mr. Speaker, it means that our institutions are dying out and therefore need support from our government. Mr. Speaker, of the 7 billion that the Kenya Red Cross Society fundraises around the globe, the majority of it comes from other Red Cross societies, mostly for disaster response, and it's very specific to the different areas of focus for the international donors. What the Kenya Red Cross Society needs to be the first responder, and Senator Haniri has listed all the response and disaster risk response that Kenya Red Cross Society has done. Again, I don't want to repeat that. To be able to arrive on time within the first hour when there's a mass casualty incident. And a mass casualty incident, Mr. Speaker, is whereby a major disaster occurs, but the resources and the time and the response is not there. What the society usually does is to preposition a lot of things for response around the country. And more, the prepositioning of disaster response commodities are becoming impossible for the organization to manage. Even sustainability in terms of just looking out to the 2,000 or so people that work for the Kenya Red Cross Society. Mr. Speaker, the Kenya Red Cross Society looks like it has a lot of people, but it's the efficiency that it has that is multiplied. It uses volunteer systems. They have 100,000 volunteers around this country who appear the minute something happens, Mr. Speaker. These volunteers are given a very basic stipend of 600 shillings when they respond. Even that, the strategy for volunteer networks is becoming unsustainable, and the organization may be rendered ineffective, not because of lack of leadership, but because of lack of resources and because of the dip in the international funding. Mr. Speaker, as a middle-income country, our country is facing a lot of challenges getting funds from... Mr. Speaker, I cannot even hear my thoughts.
Order members. Let's consult in low tones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a middle-income country, funding to Kenyan institutions, especially in the philanthropic or humanitarian space, has reduced very much, as I said, by close to half. Now, what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that as countries, and the UN, for instance, recently, there's a survey that was done by the United Nations, that is, which is the blue pillar for humanitarian response, that just global reduction in humanitarian funds in 2016 show that 40% funding shortfall for the UN coordinated humanitarian appeals. Normally what the Red Cross does, the minute there's a disaster, there's an appeal that goes out through the Red Cross movement and through the United Nations movement. All of these have dipped by 40%. What that means is that the Kenya Red Cross has had to work with less people, has had to work with less volunteers, with less prepositioned commodities, and therefore our people will suffer, Mr. Speaker. Now, the deficit that because I'm privileged to know, And I don't want to put the figures on the table, but this deficit will affect the ability of the Kenya Red Cross to respond to emergencies and disasters throughout our country, since the deficit lies largely in the operations of the disaster, which is where the rubber meets the road in terms of the major work of the organization. Mr. Speaker, the organization does much more than disaster risk response, though, and has been a key pillar as an auxiliary to government of Kenya in making sure from the ambulances that you see on the roads that are pre-positioned around this country on a cost-sharing basis, where the people that can afford it can pay for it, but then it responds for free to other people that cannot afford. So that kind of subsidy, Mr. Speaker, is something that ideally ambulance services should be provided by government, but the organization is bearing the brunt of it. So we are urging this House to stand with its institutions that are accountable, and as you know, Mr. Speaker, this organization has accounted for all their monies that the Honorable Kaniri has listed as being the budget of this organization. It's accountable not just to the donor, it's accountable to its beneficiaries, and each of us know. And I don't think Senator Haniri actually even went to Red Cross to get these statistics. They are there on the internet. They are there for all to see as per our constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, I think money or resources provided to the Kenya Red Cross Society is resources used well, is resources given to this country, is resources given to the vulnerable people. Because the client of the Kenya Red Cross Society is not you and I. The client is the most vulnerable people in this society, who the organization have carried on their backs for the last many years, since the 60s. Mr. Speaker, I know we have a division. There's a lot more I could share on this, from budgets to the movement's community strategy, to the fact that this organization is an accountable organization, that this organization arrives at the hour of need. Mr. Speaker, again, the Honorable Senator has already explained the many disasters to which the Kenya Red Cross has responded. And every coin that Kenyans have given, even through that M-Pesa 10 shillings that they have given, has been accounted for it to the cent, Mr. Speaker. So I think we need to make sure that as we look at our institutions, our country supports, and I would like to then second the motion whereby the honorable member has asked this Senate and the county and national governments. Mr. Speaker, a lot of the county governments already are starting to go into collaboration, but we need to have something sustainable, something that is coming from the national level, and something that we will make sure that Kenya Red Cross Society remains and is enduring and is sustainable for the future generations to be served. I beg to support, Mr. Speaker, sir. Second.
Okay, order members. I therefore propose the question, which is that whereas Kenya's disaster profile is dominated by droughts, fire, floods, terrorism, diseases, and epidemics that disrupt livelihoods, destroy infrastructure, divert planned use of resources, interrupt economic activities, and retard development. Further, whereas the government, through its various agencies, is ultimately responsible for disaster reduction, preparedness, and management, cognizant of the fact that the government agencies involved in the disaster management are usually overwhelmed when called upon to provide response services during disasters and emergencies, aware that the Kenya Red Cross Society Act Cap 256 of the laws of Kenya establishes the Kenya Red Cross Society as sole national Red Cross society in Kenya as a voluntary aid society. Order members consult in low tones, recognizing the efforts of Kenya Red Cross Society to provide first-line disaster response services in incidences of disasters and other emergencies across the country, observing the huge financial resources required to finance disaster reduction, preparedness, and other emergency services, noting that one of the sources of the Kenya Red Cross Society in financing its operations is through accepting unrestricted contributions and assistance in any form from individuals, public authorities, and private bodies, appreciating the efforts made by the prudent management of funds by Kenya's Red Cross Society. Further, aware that emergency fund is a substantial proportionate vote head in both the national and county government budgets, concerned that the Kenya Red Cross Society has not been allocated a budget from the national county government despite the huge contribution in disaster and emergency response across the country. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the national and county governments to explore a collaborative mechanism for the Kenya Red Cross Society to support and implement a paradigm shift from post-disaster response to risk reduction by developing and implementing a national disaster risk financing strategy across all sectors and incorporate it into the national and county development planning and financing processes. What's your point of order, Senator Murkomen?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 105, Mr. Speaker, I beg to request you to adjourn the debate temporarily for a few minutes to enable us to, Mr. Speaker, dispense the business related to division, including but not limited to the reply for the impeachment motion by Senator Cherargei bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I therefore put the question that the debate be now adjourned temporarily. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many of a contrary view say nay. The ayes have it. Before that, I wish to make a communication, Honorable Senators, that I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon of our visiting students and teachers from St. Jude's Girls Napara High School from Bungoma County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. They're on both sides. I also wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of our visiting students and teachers from Dawamu Academy School in Kajiado County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of Senate and my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senator Moses Wetangula, yes, just before that.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to join you in welcoming the students and teachers from Napara Secondary School in my county, a school that I have a lot of respect for and attachment to, based in Bumula constituency. I do welcome all of you to the Senate to see what we do here, hear how we speak here, and I hope at break time I'll be able to see you out there. Thank you.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me to also join you in welcoming students from both Bungoma County and also Dawamu from Kajiado County. And I also wish them all the best as they learn what we normally do in Senate. And I wish them all the best for those ones who are sitting for KCSE this year.
Okay, honorable members, following the request from the majority leader, we now move to order number 9.
Order number 9, the impeachment procedure bill, Senate Bills number 15 of 2018, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to reply.
I now put the question, which is order members. I now put the question, which is that the impeachment procedure bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018, be read a second time. I now direct that the division bell be rung for half a minute. Honorable Senators, I now direct that the doors be locked and that the bar be drawn. And after that, okay. Umefunga? Honorable Senators, now confirm that you are logged in. Honorable Senators, may I draw your attention to what I'm saying? Confirm that you are logged in because you are not logged in. Yeah. Confirm. Okay, voting starts now, honorable members. 1 minute to vote. Those who need manual assistance, come forward. Those who need the analog. Okay, honorable senators, the results of the division are as follows. The yes, 30, the noes, 0, abstention 0, the ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the procedure for the removal from office by impeachment of a president, deputy president, cabinet secretary, governor, deputy governor, and a member of a county executive committee, and for connected purposes.
Honorable, I direct. Honorable senators, I now direct that the doors be unlocked and the bar be drawn. Next. Okay. Next order, number 8.
Order number 8, the Petroleum Bill, National Assembly Bills number 48 of 2017, division at second reading.
I direct that the bell be rung for half a minute. Again, that be read a second time. Before. Honorable senators, I now direct that the doors be locked and that the bar be drawn. Which is, I stand. Honorable senators, I now put the question that the Petroleum Bill, National Assembly Bills number 48 of 2017 be read a second time. Okay. Start voting. 1 minute. Assisted voters to come forward manually. Assisted voters. Okay, order members. Honorable Senators, the results of the division are as follows. The ayes have 27, the nays have 1, abstentions 1, the ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide a framework for the contracting, exploration, development, and production of petroleum, cessation of upstream petroleum operations, to give effect to relevant articles of the Constitution insofar as they apply to upstream petroleum operations, regulation of midstream and downstream petroleum operations, and for connected purposes. Are you ready?
I now direct that the doors be unlocked and that the bar be drawn. Yeah. We go to 17. Honorable Senators, for the convenience of the House, I'm reorganizing the order paper. Let's go to order number 17.
Order number 17, motion, establishment of youth polytechnics in counties, division.
Okay, Honorable Senators, pursuant to order members, pursuant to standing order number 79, I rule that this matter affects counties and voting will be by delegation. I direct that they ring the bell for half a minute. I now direct that the doors be closed and the bars be drawn. Honorable Senators, I now put the question, which is that aware that youth polytechnics, also known as village polytechnics, are educational institutions that offer primary school leavers opportunities to acquire relevant knowledge, especially technical and vocational skills, to increase their employability. Further aware that youth polytechnics provide industrial and entrepreneurial skills training to young people in order to increase employment opportunities, reduce dependency levels, and increase self-reliance among the youths. Recalling that in 2005, the Youth Training Department of the Ministry, the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, was established through the Presidential Circular number 1 of 2005 with a mandate of revitalizing the youth polytechnics countrywide in order to empower youth through provision of accessible, appropriate and quality training in technical, vocational, industrial, entrepreneurship and life skills, cognizant that youth polytechnics are a devolved function, persuaded that vocational education and training is a critical aspect for a developing economy and that it would contribute towards the realization of the Big Four agenda, concerned that in Kenya, the number of young people who have completed the primary school education but have not joined secondary schools continues to rise by the day. Further concerned that county governments have not prioritized youth polytechnic functions despite the polytechnic's capacity to ultimately contribute to both social and economic development. Now, therefore, the Senate calls upon each of the 47 county governments to A, establish youth polytechnics in every location within their respective areas of jurisdiction and to revamp the already existing youth polytechnics, and B, to develop a structure guideline for sensitizing the youth who have completed their primary school education but have not joined Form 1 to embrace vocational training in order to acquire the necessary skills to join the labor market. logging in. To start voting. You can start the voting. Voting is ongoing. Yes, the voting. Vote. Okay, assisted voters to come forward. Honorable Senators, the results of the voting are as follows. The ayes have 28. Order members, the nays have 0. Abstention 0. The ayes have it. I now direct that the doors be opened and the bars be drawn. Senators, we are going to order number 10 and 11. So I now have to.
Order number 10, Committee of the Whole on the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2017.
Oh, okay.
So, you will tell members that
Honorable Senators, we are now on order number 10, the county boundaries, which is Committee of the Whole, and on the county boundaries bill, which is on division, and we are going to proceed to vote. Kindly ring the bell for half a minute. Not yet. Honorable Senators, we are on clauses without amendments. Clause 1. I now put the question that clauses 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 18, 20, 23, 25, 31, 40, and 45, and clause 2 be amended as proposed. Okay, sorry, Honorable Senators. First of all, let's kindly close the bus. I repeat. Log in for the voting, please. Kindly log in for the voting, please. It's not yet on.
Okay. Get it. Let's vote.
It's not on.
Okay.
Don't worry.
So start voting.
Kindly start voting, honorable senators.
Yes. What do you are voting? You have no alternative.
End of voting, honorable senators. Those to be assisted can come to the. You can give me the first one. Kwani hauna?
Print the. Here. Then print. Yeah.
So this is wrong.
No, this one is where they'll indicate those ones, the results. So you can put yours here. Since I'm sure you haven't voted unless someone is voting for you. Senator Wanga, Senator Faria has left the chamber? Yes. Okay, so in that case you'll vote. Senator Kamar?
Yes. Honorable senators, the results for the first division: ayes 26, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it. Next. This one.
Yeah, you say no, we're going to new clause 42A and 47A. I put the question.
We move to the second division. New clauses 42A and 47A. I now put the question that new clauses 42A and 47A be now read a second time. Division. Not yet. Honorable Senators, please vote. Honorable Senators, that's the end of voting. Any members who have not voted electronically can come up for assistance, please. I'm one of them.
Senator Kamar. Senator, law system imekukataa. Senator Kamar, Senator Dullo. Senator Dullo hasn't voted. Senator Omanga. Senator...
Omanga is voting for Nairobi. Miradi yote.
Honorable Senators, let's announce the results of the division. Ayes 26, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it. Honorable Senators, clauses without amendments. I put the question that clauses clauses 3 to 6, 7 as amended, 8 as amended, 9 as amended, 10 as amended, 11, 12 as amended, 13, 14, 15 as amended, 16, 17, 18 as amended, 19, 20 as amended, 21, 22, 23 as amended, 24, 25 as amended, 26 to 30, 31 as amended, 32 to 39, 40 as amended, 41, 44, 45 as amended, 46 to 49, new clauses 42A and 47A, the first schedule, the second schedule, the third schedule, the fourth schedule, and the fifth schedule. Clause 2 as amended, the title and clause 1 be part of the bill. Division. Kindly vote, honorable senators. Honorable senators, that's the end of voting. Members who need assistance, please come up. Honorable senators, the results are as follows. Ayes 26, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it. The mover to reply.
Mover to reply.
No, to report.
Mover to report, sorry.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the Senate its consideration of the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2017, and its approval with amendments. Thank you.
I will put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2017, and its approval thereof, with amendments.
Yes.
But he has amendments.
May as many as of the opinion say aye.
Aye.
And contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker.
chairperson of the committee. What's your point of order, leader of?
The Speaker, Madam Speaker, and is it in order for me to remind members that they should not leave the chambers, because the whole work we did in the committee stage, Madam Speaker, will come to a naught if we don't sit to complete the remaining one very important division. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, am I in order to ask this from our colleagues?
Except you have a whip in the house, leader of majority. And that is her job, and she should have done that all along. Okay, may I call on the chair to report on this one?
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2017, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the House doth agree with the committee on the said report. I request Senator Orengo to second the motion.
Senator Orengo.
I second.
Honorable Senators, I will now propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable Senators, I don't see a request to speak. I will now put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2017, be now read a third time. Request Senator Orengo to second.
Honorable Senators, I will now propose the question, which is that the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2017, be read a third time. I see no requests. Honorable members, I will now put the question, which is that the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2017, be read a third time. Division. Go ahead and vote, please. Outside. Yeah, outside.
Okay.
All the other members themselves are here. Please take your seats. Honorable Senators, the ayes are 27, the nays 0, abstentions 0. The ayes have it.
An act of parliament to provide for the county boundaries, to provide for mechanism for the resolution of county boundary disputes, to give effect to Article 188 of the Constitution by providing for the procedure for alteration of county boundaries, to provide for the establishment of an independent county boundaries commission and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, Committee of the Whole, the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, Division.
Honorable Senators, order number 11, the Office of the County Attorney General, Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018. We proceed to division. We are resuming on our division.
We'll start with the first division.
And the first division clauses for deletion. I put the question that clause 10 and clause 25 be deleted. I order that the bars be drawn. And Honorable Senators, ensure that you are logged in. Honorable Senators, kindly log in. Not yet. Not yet.
We may proceed to vote. I think now they are ready.
Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote.
Vote.
Somebody's lifting. Do we have the numbers?
They're still voting.
End of voting. Honorable Senators who need assistance may come up for assistance, please.
The results for the division.
Honorable Senators, I'm announcing the results for the division. Ayes 24. No, 0. Abstention 0. The ayes have it.
We are proceeding to the second division.
Honorable Senators, we are proceeding to the second division. I put the question that which is clauses with amendment. I put the question that clauses 5, 6, 7, 13, 16, 18, 19, 20, 22, 32 be amended as proposed.
Proceed to division.
Division. Honorable Senators, you can now vote. Honorable Senators, the voting time is over. Assisted voters to come up, please. Senator Sherargei, please come up and vote. Hakuna. Honorable Senators, the results are as follows. Ayes 27, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it. So we go here. Honorable Senators, we proceed to the third division, new clause 5A. I put the question that the new clause 5A be now read a second time. 1. Honorable Senators, log in, please, and proceed to vote.
Point of order, Chair. Chair, you announced that we had 27 votes. But looking at the head count of senators present is about 27. But we also have senators here who are members of delegations whose head of delegations are present. So it can't possibly be that we are registering 27 votes. And this is a house of record, and the accuracy of the record is what keeps the good name of this house. I would want to ask for clarification. Because Senator Kamar is the head of the Uasin Gishu delegation where Senator Chebeni is. So if one is voting, one can't be voting.
Senator, we are just checking the records.
She's under Uasin Gishu. Senator Milson and Musuruve are Nairobi delegation.
Olekina is around, but behind. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah? You are Kakamega. You vote for Kakamega? Yes, I just want to have my mind settled that we are doing the right thing. Tycoon, I know you're used to rigging elections, but we want to have things right.
Honorable Senators, we are verifying the records, but meanwhile we proceed, and I think there's only a problem with the Nairobi delegation, which we are correcting. This one,
No, we have not printed out the results for new class 5A.
5A, the printout. It's already, is there?
No,
Can you print? No, sio hiyo. The result.
5A, then you need the members getting.
Where are the members? The one with
The
the...
list, the selection.
See, this one you've already done.
This one you've already done. So we need to see, we don't have numbers. We need to see.
We are still printing. We are still printing. Yeah. That's fine. Now that's okay. Okay. Honorable Senators.
We can't proceed before we have announced results for 5A.
Assisted voters, kindly come up and vote. Senator Cherargei, Senator Dulo, Senator Omanga.
One more.
Just one more. The results. Honorable Senators, the results are as follows. Ayes 27, nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it. Honorable Senators, the 4th division clauses without amendments. I put the question that clauses 3, 4, 5 as amended, 6 as amended, 7 as amended, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13 as amended, 14, 15, 16 as amended, 17, 18 as amended, 19 as amended, 20 as amended, 21, 22 as amended, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 as amended, 31, 32, new clause 5A, first schedule, second schedule, clause 2 as amended, the third title and clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as... Oh, fine, sorry. Can we proceed to voting? Honorable Senators, log in and vote. You can commence voting. Honorable Senators, end of voting, and Senators who need assistance to vote, please come up. Did you vote?
Please come and vote.
You come and vote, Senator.
Angalia Senator Wario, Turkana, and Tana River, Wario. You're saying as a card as a problem. I'm a vote.
Amar.
Who has stepped out who has not voted? Toa valia. Valia na wako. Valia na wako. Toa valia na wako. Hawako.
How many?
25. 25. Who has not voted? Timothy na Ephraim.
As Ephraim is there.
Iman.
No, him he voted. He
Iman
came to write.
voted. Falhada. Falhada has voted. Falhada.
Falhada.
Falhada. She has. Haniri. Kibiru. Kihika. Kilonzo. Kirinyaga. Langat. Mohamud. Senator.
She voted there.
Wambua.
Wario, Wetangula, Zani.
Zani has voted.
Zani had not voted there.
Huh?
Zani had not voted there.
She did.
Oh, she did.
She did.
She's even the last year. How many assisted? How many assisted?
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
Lelegwe amevote.
Lelegwe amevote. Subetsi.
Lelegwe would come.
Samburu.
Senator Lelegwe, please. Then there's another one.
There has to be another one.
Ombwa amevote.
Wako is here. Has Wako voted? Wako.
She's there.
Malsabit, Wako. She's there. Wako. Has she voted?
Senator Wako, have you voted? Patia yeye ya vote. So now it is okay. Umeingia na huko? Umeingia na behind? Wewe, uliingia na wapi? Umeingia na wapi? Yeah, you see. Nyinyi ndio wakora. No. Oh, okay. Oh. Honorable Senators, the results are as follows. Ayes 27, nays 0, abstentions 0. The ayes have it. Mover. The mover, please. Where's the mover?
Sorry, thank you.
I will put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Office of the County Attorney Bill number 3 of 2018 and its approval thereof with amendments. As many as are of the opinion say aye, and the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker.
We have one vote, Mr. Speaker.
We have only one vote.
One vote, yeah?
Yes.
we have not bowed. Oh.
Honorable Senators, I call upon the chairperson to report.
Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. I order the bars to be drawn.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Office of the County Attorney Bill number 3 of 2018 and its approval thereof with amendments.
Honorable Senators, I call upon the mover to move agreement to the report.
Honorable Speaker, okay. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee of the said report.
Honorable Senators, I will propose the question that which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable Senators, I wish to put the question which is that the House do agree with the report, with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? Ayes have it. The mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Office of the County Attorney Bill number 3 of 2018 be now read a third time. And I invite Senator Murkomen Kipchumba to second.
The Speaker, I second.
Should I stand? Honorable Senators, I will propose the question which is that the Office of the County Attorney Bill number 3 of 2018 be now read a third time. Honorable Senators, I will put the question which is that the Office of the County Attorney Bill number 3 of 2018 be now read a third time. Division. Honorable Senators, I order the bell to be rung for 5 minutes. Oh, yes, I can. Because tomorrow I will not be there.
To plan with somebody.
No, I have planned. I've already planned. With Professor, yeah, with Professor. Yes.
Monday you can go to the end.
Yeah, you can go up to there. No problem. Okay.
Mutula, can you bring those people back? Bring them back. Just bring them back.
One more.
Do I see? Kindiki and Kibiro look at it. Just go.
You don't have the number.
Is it called Kibiro or Kabiro?
Kabiro, they just left.
It's Kabiro, not Kibiro.
Why Linturi? Linturi. Is it okay? No, you have to go to Linturi, I went to talk to I think we are good.
1 minute.
Mutula, people are sleeping and you're standing out. You're opening the doors. You're opening the doors for them to leave. You're holding for them the door at work.
Waiter is around here.
As long as
Waiter is not around. Waiter is not around. Aaron, people must not leave.
we have numbers now. But
We have the
vote
numbers.
now.
We got the numbers. We have them. Lakini, why did you allow Kindiki to go? Why did you allow Kindiki?
Honorable Senators, order, Honorable Senators, order, Honorable Senators. Order, Honorable Senators. I now order the bust be drawn and the doors be locked. Kindly, Honorable Senators, you log in. Kindly log in for voting. Oh, you already logged in.
Kindly put the question again so that we go for division.
This one. I read here.
Yeah, I know now put the question, which is then division.
Honorable Senators, I will put the question, which is that the office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bill number 3 of 2018, be now read a third time. Division. Start voting now. Honorable Senators, I now report the results of the division. Order, Honorable Senators. I now report the results of the division. The ayes 29, the nays 0, abstention 0. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to establish the office of the county attorney, provide for the functions and powers of the county attorney, provide for the discharge of duties and the exercise of powers of the county attorney, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 12.
Honorable Senators, I now order the bars be drawn and doors be opened. Next order. Order, Honorable Senators. Next order.
Order number 12, Committee of the Whole on the Food Security Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2017.
Honorable Senators, I defer order number 12. Next order.
Order number 13, Committee of the Whole on the Office of the County Attorney Printer Bill, Senate Bills number 7 of 2018.
Committee of the Whole.
Honorable Senators, we are now on the Committee of the Whole, the Office of the County Printer Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2018. But we'll not proceed for, we are not going to, we are not proceeding to the voting, to the division.
Clause 3.
Is it? I propose the question that clause 3 be part of the bill. I put the question that clause 3 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
Clause 4.
I propose the question that clause 4 be part of the bill. I put the question that clause 4 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
Clause 5.
I propose the question that clause 5 be part of the bill. Mover. Senator Shebeni.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of Chairperson of Standing Committee on Information, Communication and Technology, I beg to move that Clause 5 be amended as set out in the order paper.
I propose the question that Clause 5 be amended as proposed. I put the question that Clause 5 be amended as proposed. Division at the end.
Clause 6.
I propose the question that Clause 6 be part of the bill. I put the question that Clause 6 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
Clause 7.
I propose the question that Clause 7 be part of the bill. I put the question that Clause 7 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
Clause 8.
I propose the question that Clause 8 be part of the bill. I put the question that Clause 8 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
Clause 9.
I propose the question that Clause 9 be part of the bill. Chairperson.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that Clause 5 be amended, Clause 9, be amended as set out in the order paper. Thank you.
I propose the question that Clause 9 be amended as proposed. I put the question that Clause 9 be amended as proposed. Division at the end.
Clause 10.
I propose the question that Clause 10 be part of the bill. Chairperson.
On behalf of Chairperson of Standing Committee on Information, Communication and Technology, I beg to move that Clause 10 be amended as set out in the order paper.
I propose the question that Clause 10 be amended as proposed. I put the question that Clause 10 be amended as proposed. Division at the end. There is a further amendment to Clause 10 by the mover. Mover.
Madam Chairperson, I beg to move that Clause 10 be amended as set out in the order paper.
I propose the question that Clause 10 be amended as proposed. I put the question that Clause 10 be amended as proposed. Division at the end.
Clause 11.
I propose the question that Clause 11 be part of the bill. I put the question that Clause 11 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
New Clause 10A.
Mover.
Madam Chairperson, I beg to move that the new Clause 10A be read a second time and the text of the amendment as set out in the order paper.
I propose the question now. I propose the question that new Clause 10A be read a second time. I propose the question that new Clause 10A be read a second time. I put the question that Clause 10A be read a second time. Division at the end.
New Clause 10B.
Mover.
Madam Chairperson, I beg to move that new Clause 10B be amended as set out in the order paper.
I propose the question that new Clause 10A be read a second time. 10B? Oh, we are now. Sorry. I propose the question that new clause 10B be read a second time. I put the question that new clause 10B be read a second time, division at the end.
Clause 2.
I propose the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Mover.
Madam Chairperson, I beg to move that new clause 2 be amended as set out in the order paper.
I propose the question that clause 2 be amended as proposed. I put the question that clause 2 be amended as proposed, division at the end.
The title and clause 1.
I propose the question that the title and clause 1 be part of the bill. I put the question that the title and clause 1 be part of the bill, division at the end. Honorable Senators, now that we do not have the requisite number, we are going to report progress. So we can call mover, please.
Honorable Chairperson, pursuant to Standing Order number 142, I beg to move that the committee do report progress on its consideration of the Office of the County Printer Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2018, and seek to leave to sit again tomorrow.
I will put the question, which is that the committee do report progress on its consideration of the Office of the County Printer Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2018, and seek leave to sit again tomorrow. As many as are of the opinion say aye. Aye. Those of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I call upon the chairperson to report progress.
I will put the question. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report progress on the Committee of the Whole that has considered the Office of the County Printer Bill, Senate Bill number 7 of 2018, and seeks leave to sit again tomorrow.
Honorable Senators, I call upon the mover to report agreement.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report.
Mover, who is seconding?
I ask Senator Chirio to second.
I second.
Honorable Senators, I will propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable Senators, I will put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. As many as of that opinion say aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Speaker, the chairperson of this committee, which is Senator Yusuf Haji, is not in, so this order is going to be deferred. I don't know why it's not going. So we'll say number 14 is being deferred, but instead of going to 15, we were to go back now to the motion by Senator Hanure, which is number 18. So we'll now go back to debate on number 18. You have that?
Next order.
Order number 14, the Disaster Committee of the Whole, the Disaster Risk Management Bill, Senate Bill number 8 of 2018.
Honorable Senators, I defer order number 14. Next order.
Order number 15, the Care and Protection of Older Members of Society Bill, Senate Bill number 17 of 2018, second reading.
I defer order number 15. Next order.
Order number 16, the Petition to County Assemblies Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 22 of 2018. What the Speaker has brought that is that we will go back to debate on number 18. So we need to defer the others. We go back to this motion.
Honorable Senators, I defer order number 16. Next order.
Order number 18, motion, development and implementation of a national disaster risk financing strategy.
Senator Cheriot.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to rise to lend my support to this extremely important motion by my colleague, Senator for Vihiga, the Senator George Haniri, seconded by a very distinguished lady who has extremely huge experience actually in this particular area of disaster response and how it is managed. Mr. Speaker, from the very onset, I must say that this is an extremely timely thought. And the most important thing of the contributions that were made by our colleague is that they are jointly co-sponsoring a bill with Senator Halake, who served before coming to this House as Deputy Director of the Kenya National Red Cross. Mr. Speaker, it has been said that there is no need to reinvent the wheel. If Kenya Red Cross have proven times innumerable that they are able to respond to disasters, whatever the magnitude is in this country. Therefore, it is not rocket science, Mr. Speaker, for it to be proposed that they need government support for them to actually take care of this particular unfortunate events, because we've seen the nature and the speed with which government continues to drop the ball every time there's a disaster, be it here in the capital city or even in different parts of this country, where the known first responders in any particular part of this country are Kenya Red Cross Society. And therefore, for someone to think through and consider that they can actually be lended government support and be made to be more effective, enjoy the leverage of being provided for with the resources that they need to respond to emergencies in this country, I find it to be an extremely timely thought, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I want to continue in agreement with the proposals that the mover of these motions, this motion has made before this Honorable House this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, that a time has come for us to look keenly into how we handle disaster management and consider it that as government institutions, they may not have the expertise and the know-how on how to place first responders in known areas that are disaster prone in this particular country, Mr. Speaker. It will not be unusual. Neither will we be the first country in the world to sort of give away what is considered generally to be government business or work that should ordinarily be handled by government. A new concept is emerging, Mr. Speaker, where in different parts of the world, people appreciate that there are certain organizations that excel in different disciplines. And therefore, there is absolutely nothing illegal in saying that given your track record and how we know your response to various disasters within our country, we want to lend you the kind of support that is being provided, that is needed for you to execute this work with extreme distinction. Mr. Speaker, it will as well be my proposal that we can even consider and go further to not only give them support to operate at the national level, but to have presence down to our villages and sub-locations in our counties, Mr. Speaker, where in the law that they are proposing, and I want to urge my colleagues to consider it, giving the legal framework that is needed for county governments to also partner with the Kenya Red Cross Society. It will be important for them. Of course, we do remember that during the first cycle of devolution, there were a few challenges here and there. And truth be told, it is a matter that appeared even before the committee that I serve, the Committee of Finance, last Parliament, where a number of counties went and signed partnership with Kenya Red Cross to provide ambulance services. But the truth of the matter is that it was considered to be, one, a bit more expensive, and secondly, the framework that was used to reach this kind of agreement wasn't so transparent. And therefore, I'd wish to also urge this organization that before we consider the thought of dipping or throwing public resources at such institutions, we consider what are the governance structures. We were informed this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, that their turnover, or perhaps the amount of money that they used last year to oversee all the disaster response activities is to the tune of 7 billion Kenya shillings. Mr. Speaker, that is not a small amount of money. But given that it is not a public organization, issues of transparency can never be second-guessed. And therefore, it is extremely important that now that this proposal is being made, in their request and the bill that they will be sending to this House, let them assure us that checks and balances are properly provided for, such that when a county government enters into partnership with the Red Cross, it is through an open process where citizens of that particular county get value for money and they get the services that are due and deserved of them. On many occasions, I have even seen that there are various counties that have excelled in the area of disaster response in particular trades that need the support from other county governments, but the framework doesn't exist. And therefore, it is upon us as a house, the primary institution that makes laws for, the primary institution being the house that makes laws for our county governments, to give them the framework that they need. I do know, for example, Mr. Speaker, the renowned divers from Bomet County who continue to serve the entire South and Rift Valley region. Every time there's a disaster that will require that kind of service, you do remember that I have seen them occasionally when there have been incidents where people have drowned in my county. They have been called upon to respond to such issues. Last year, towards the end of last year, when one of our colleagues here had a mishap and members of staff from her office had the accident in Lake Nakuru, I saw them being called upon to respond, and they were driven all the way from Bomet County. And within 2 or 3 days of being at the scene, they were able to retrieve one of the bodies that were missing at that particular time. Therefore, the point that I make, Mr. Speaker, is when we have this kind of expertise, it calls upon us, we are duty bound as an institution of a Senate to provide the necessary framework to ensure that people who excel in such important activities get the necessary support. Because the thing that continues to bother me is that are these young men employees of the county government? And the truth of the matter is that they are not employees, but there are people, most of them young people, who just love the diving exercise and business, and therefore occasionally when there's a disaster of this kind, they are called upon to respond. And given the fact that many of our young people are trained and they have good patriotic traits, where when disasters strike, you first serve, then second question whether you'll be paid or not. Therefore, they end up responding, but they never get paid. For us to encourage and to have many such young people who can respond even along our highways when there's accidents or such issues, it is important, Mr. Speaker, that we provide the necessary framework. When I was a few days ago, Mr. Speaker, we are aware of the kind of troubles that countries like Indonesia were faced with. And when I was watching that very unfortunate incident of the earthquake, the thing that struck my mind is that what will happen to countries like Kenya, for example, were we to face an occurrence of nature that is even half the magnitude of what Indonesia faced? How prepared are we? If we continue to struggle even with collapsed buildings that are 6 and 7 stories, how will we respond given a landslide or an earthquake of that nature as is being faced by countries like Indonesia? And therefore, it is important as leaders to begin to question and know that accidents do happen. The fact that this country has never faced an earthquake is not enough confirmation that it may never happen in the future. With all these seismic shifts that you're observing across the Rift Valley, you do remember what happened to the Narok-Nairobi highway earlier on in the beginning of this year. And therefore, it is important we begin to think matters disaster preparedness and begin to provide the kind of framework that is being proposed by the movers of this particular motion, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I want to laud them for this great and noble initiative and thought that we're just speaking about things that are important to us, but more importantly, the thing that I laud them the most for is a thought that the Senator Haniri shared with us, that they are already midway through the preparation of a bill that we provide the framework for this to be properly operationalized and for us to see better disaster response when it happens in the future. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I want to say I support.
Senator Judy Pareno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this motion, Mr. Speaker, because we have just come from some very long droughts that we suffered last year, Mr. Speaker. Lots of floods that we suffered last year to the beginning of this year, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, and a lot of disasters that we have all seen, Mr. Speaker, going by what we saw with the Solai Dam disasters, and a lot of collapsed buildings all over, Mr. Speaker, causing destruction to property and causing us lots of loss of life, Mr. Speaker, and loss of earnings for people, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if we don't come out to finance, to have a strategy to finance how to deal with these disasters, then at all times we will not be preventive, but rather will be only reactionary, reacting to acts or that have been committed, or omissions caused by omissions, Mr. Speaker, or even acts of God, because when it is floods, a lot of rains are by God, but a lot of other aspects come by acts or omissions by the human beings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have had a lot of landslides. We have lost lives in a lot of ways because of lack of proper management as to how to handle these disasters, Mr. Speaker. Last year, Mr. Speaker, if I may speak on a personal level, we lost a lot of animals in Kajiado. I personally, in my family, lost more than 50. My own nuclear family lost more than 50 cows and goats and sheep, Mr. Speaker. So even for you who is working, even to go back and be able to recover from that, it is very expensive. We ended up losing so much because of the drought. Ended up losing in terms of buying the pasture, buying the hay for the animals, looking for water for the animals. At that particular time, we were suffering because of the drought. Then immediately after the drought, then we suffered the floods, Mr. Speaker. I want to say that even the restocking program that the county tried to come up with did not materialize. I remember, Mr. Speaker, that there were complaints all over that they tried to restock, they tried to even buy the very frail animals that were suffering from malnutrition, and at some prices that are throwaway prices. Then the other day, I even heard that those who gave out their animals to Kenya Meat Commission have not been paid to date. Their money is still being waited for. They were able to try and salvage the little they have by selling the cows to KMC. KMC itself is in its deathbed, Mr. Speaker. And the restocking program did not take off, or if it took off, then it was of very little significance, Mr. Speaker. So I want to say that, Mr. Speaker, we should not wait until a disaster strikes. We should not wait until the drought is there to hit us hard. We should not wait until there is a fire and we are unable to control it, then we cry thereafter. We should not wait until, Mr. Speaker, until we lose everybody. Until buildings are collapsing is when we come to cry that we have disasters, Mr. Speaker. It is time that we have a strategy, not just to talk about financing, but what the finances will do. The finances should be able to mitigate these disasters, Mr. Speaker. The financing, we should have I'm sure there is a policy, Mr. Speaker. All we need to do is to finance and implement the intentions of that policy, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that, like last time when we visited Tana River as a security committee, when we had lots of floods in Tana River, and when we all heard that we had people's homes being swept off, anybody who was near the rivers was being swept off, their homesteads were swept off, the schools were flooded and swept off. We went there as a national security committee, and people were crying. There was no food, and the county government, the security apparatus were all running, trying to distribute food because people could not reach the shopping centers because of the floods. And even if you reach there, the supplies were not there. And Mr. Speaker, we found them distributing food. So I want to relieve food. So I want to say that we should not just wait until too late in the day without that strategy that will enable us to have food when there is need for it. In fact, we were wondering, why were we not, when we know that we are going to have floods, why were we not ready with choppers to drop foods? Because there was a problem of transport. The trucks were stuck. They could not reach the destination to supply food, leading to a shortage of food where the floods had affected the people. So then we kept asking, didn't you know that there could have been a chance that we were going to have floods? And if you knew that we of the people that are suffering. How comes we wait until the last days when we say we are taking food, relief food to Tana River, when you know Tana River areas, most of the areas will be so flooded that even that truck will not reach the destination it's supposed to go, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to have this strategy in place to finance each and every activity, right from preventive measures, right from rescue measures, right from medical measures, right from relief measures, and finally, when you have to distribute the food, because most likely you will have prepared, but once in a while you might not be able to be fully prepared in a lot of areas, Mr. Speaker. So I think there is a chain of activities that needs to be undertaken when we know that we are going to have disasters that are going to strike, Mr. Speaker. And we keep saying, disasters will never give you a warning. And in fact, I think some give a warning. Like now, Mr. Speaker, the meteorological department actually indicated that we are going to have rainfall towards November, December, we are going to have a lot of rainfall, which is above the normal rainfall in certain areas. So when we know that we are going to have rainfalls that are going to be above the normal average, then you know that somehow we might have problems with flood. Somehow we might have a lot of infrastructure that is going to be destroyed. Our roads will not be passable. What are we doing? Do we have enough finances? Do we have enough interventions? Have we financed those interventions? Or are we waiting for Red Cross to always rush? Then we go after Red Cross. Normally, Mr. Speaker, with our observation, we observe that most of the times we have a disaster, it is normally the mwananchi who is passing by to reach the scene. The second person to reach the scene is Red Cross. Then the third, the government now comes in. Where is this government that is always late in terms of rescuing the people when they need government intervention most? We would want to see that government is fast, both the county government and the national government. We want to see coordination of all, because we also have a problem, Mr. Speaker, in terms of how these activities are coordinated. You find the national government is doing something different, you find the county government is doing something different, then Red Cross comes to do something different. We should have a coordinated way. And this can only be happening if, in the first place, we have a strategy. And if that strategy is actually properly implemented, and it can only be implemented if the finances are there, Mr. Speaker. So I think, Mr. Speaker, this is a good motion that needs to be supported and also needs to be implemented. So it is also another challenge after we pass these resolutions in this motion for purposes of getting a budget, getting a strategy on how to finance this disaster management, for this Senate to follow up. Because, Mr. Speaker, sometimes we wonder, we do a lot of resolutions. We recommend a lot of things to these ministries. But how much is being implemented? We need the implementation committee in place to follow up to see that every other aspect that we pronounce in this House, every other resolution and recommendation that we pronounce in this House should be followed up to the letter so that the implementation is done. Otherwise, we might now say that we need a financing mechanism for these disasters, then the mechanism is never drawn and it is never financed. And if it is done, we need to know how it is being done. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to fully support this, and I hope that the implementation of it will be done. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Moses Wetangula. Senator Christopher Langat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to make my contribution towards this particular motion on disaster management. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, I want to concur with other speakers who have spoken before me in the sense that in our country and our counties at large, we are lacking proactive strategies to combat these particular issues on disasters, that is. I want to say that the greatest challenges we've been facing in our counties, for instance, this year alone, in Bomet, we had a lot of issues on disaster, one of which fire raised down a great part of our hospital, Tenwek. And actually, it took us a long time to manage this disaster because of some simple things that could have been handled beforehand. And I want to say that one of the greatest challenges, Mr. Speaker, in our counties in handling disasters is procurement processes. I'm sure even in our county, for example, it has taken around nine months for the procured machine, firefighting machine, to be obtained. So I want to say that procurement policies must be reviewed, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that emergency things are procured faster than the processes that are being followed currently. I want also to say that another challenge that we have that causes a minor disasters that become serious in the long run is failure by the government departments to do regular inspection. For example, on electric gadgets, electrification of the houses. So you see some wires or whatever, electric cables have been chewed by the rats, and by the end of it, it causes a lot of fire outbreaks and hence becoming great disasters. I want to say others are caused by negligence and ignorance and failure to follow even the regulations that have been given by respective organizations. So I want to say that it is interesting that an organization like Red Cross is doing better than the county governments and the national government. And I want to say we need to collaborate more with the Red Cross so that we may be able to work together towards fighting these particular disasters. Otherwise, disasters in our country has not been addressed effectively, ranging from the policies, actually that policy framework that has to guide disaster management in our country. So this Senate has a role in actually coming up with policy frameworks that will guide our country and our counties in fighting these disasters. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I want you to support this motion in order to overcome this issue of disaster in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, there is no more requests. I therefore defer reply to tomorrow. Next order.
Order number 19, motion. Improvement of Kenya's position in the World Economic Forum Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index.
I defer order number 19 to tomorrow. Honorable Senators, having concluded the business on the order paper, it's now the Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 4th of October, 2018 at 2:30 p.m.